I got to give disclaimers, right? So first of all, I'm going to give the best answers I have as of today based on my knowledge of having the game manual for a little bit of time, but not a ton of time. And please keep in mind the game manual might be updated in the future. And there's Q&A online that could be updated and could clarify some things from today or some things that other teams have questions about. So if you're looking back on this video in about 4 months' time, don't listen to me. Go double check the rules, double check the Q&A, okay? As a heads up, the Q&A will supersede anything in the game manuals. So if there's a discrepancy, go to the Q&A for the highest level of clarification. It is in your best interest to read the rules. So I'm going to give you answers today. This is not a substitute for reading the rules, okay? So please make sure you guys do that so you have a full understanding of the game, how to play it legally, maybe some ways that you might eke out a few more points, and how you're not going to break the rules. So today we're going to have open Q&A. In the future, between events, before events, after events, if you have a question, there's going to be an online forum. It is the same as last year, ftc-qa.firstinspires.org, where again, you have a login or your team has a login where you can go answer questions. You can also peruse other questions that have been asked by other teams. So please take a look at that. That's your resource. Do not email me. I will not answer your individual questions. Do not email the GDC. They will also not answer your individual questions. That being said, people on Discord or a Reddit or Chief Delphi or something might answer your questions. You don't know who they are or what their authority is. So don't trust anything you read outside of the Q&A online. This is all the exciting stuff, guys, but it's important. Okay, if you're at an event and you have a question, there will be a question box. We do not have one here today, but you should be explained where it is in the driver's meeting. You guys can ask questions during the driver's meeting or in the question box during the event. This also includes if you have a special accommodation, a disability or something like that, please come to the question box or talk to the tournament director ahead of time and make sure that we can accommodate you. Make sure that if you have somebody who's maybe physically limited doing the human player job, we can find solutions that are appropriate for that situation. If you have any problems with other teams, with students, with maybe inappropriate behavior, or something you're just not sure about, bring it to the question box. It's the easiest place where you can get an answer the day of. Also, if you have a question about a specific match, make sure you ask it within 3 matches of that match. You're going to bring 1 student. You're not going to bring pictures. You're not going to bring videos. Please bring documentation, though. I would love to talk about the game manual and look at it. I'd love to talk about the Q&A and look at it. So please feel free to bring those. Don't bring a Reddit question or a Discord question. Again, that's not legitimate documentation. Other things. In my reading of Game Manual Part 2, there's a lot of reminders that dimensions in the manual are approximate. They are for reference only. Actual dimensions may vary slightly. Please keep that in mind when designing your robots and designing how you play your game. There also might be some tile size variation this year, so be prepared for that. You don't know what tiles you will get at your events, so please be prepared for a little bit of variation. Safety. When you're in a competition area, I know Ryan already tackled this in his Kahoot, and hopefully we all learned, but closed-toed, closed-heeled shoes and safety glasses, right? The other thing that's important this year, and is a cardable offense, is walking over, stepping over, jumping over, hopping over our large midfield obstruction, right? So if you really want to get to the other side of the field while you're setting up because you really want to grab that preload, you're not going to go this way. You're going to go exit the field, and you're going to walk around. Or you get somebody over there to hand you stuff over the wall, okay? Do not walk over the wall. You will be penalized. Other top tips, make it obvious, and don't play the rules, play the game, because that makes everyone's lives easier. I'm gonna dive into a couple things real quick. I have my very high-tech robot. Everyone loves her, right? Woo, high-tech robot. So I have a red robot. I'm gonna set her up on the red side. All right, so my red robot has alliance markers. Alliance markers haven't changed. They're the same as last year. Read Game Manual Part 1 for more information. If I'm going to preload anything on my robot, which I do not have to do, I'm not taking these pixels. Those are not my pixels to take. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to grab these pixels. These are the Red Alliance pixels. They just have to be touching the robot. They could be touching the robot on the floor. They could be touching the robot on an arm or appendage or somewhere inside. All of those are fine. Again, you do not have to preload both. You can preload one and not the other. You do not have to preload any. Additionally, you can start with the white pixel out there. Again, that will get you half points for your bonus, or the standard amount, 10. You can swap it out with a prop if you want. You're going to place it where the white pixel was. You're not moving any of this around. Your pixel that you removed when you placed the prop goes into pixel storage. If you have a drone, which you do not need to have, but if you do, you should have one red and one blue so you can completely play the game, it can be preloaded. If you do not want to preload your drone, it goes into pixel storage. We get where everything starts, right? Okay. If you are running autonomous, you're going to pre-select your autonomous program. When you are queued to do so, you are going to hit init and initialize that program, okay? If you are not running autonomous, you can pre-select your driver control period or control operation mode, and then you can just sit and wait, okay? So you do not have to do anything in autonomous. You can do all of those fun scoring things that were discussed, or maybe you can drive into a wall. Who knows? So this is kind of how we're starting. The important thing, you guys are hands off. When you guys are ready, you're standing up in your alliance station. You're standing up in your human player station. You're showing us that you are ready. We will randomize the field. Again, we will be moving the team prop or the pixel based on our randomization queue. And we'll do it for the back as well. And then we will be starting the match with a 3, 2, 1, go. On go, you're pressing play if you have an autonomous. You are not pressing play if you do not have an autonomous. You will then let the 30-second timer run out, doing whatever it is you want to do to try and earn some points. After that, we will have, again, the 8-second transition we're used to. Drivers, pick up your controllers. 3, 2, 1, right? During which time you can pick up your controllers. You're not hitting play, though, until go again. You're going to play the rest of the match. At the end of the match, before the timer hits 0, you are pressing stop. We're making that very clear this year. You are pressing stop before the timer hits 0. Okay? Everything in this game is scored at rest after the match has ended, except for our suspended robots or our parked robots. Those are being scored at 0. Okay? So we care about what the state of the field is at 0. Okay. Everything else, something might happen afterwards, some things might fall. we will look at the suspended robots at 0. Okay? That is the big stuff about how we're progressing through the gameplay. I hope this is clear. This is a little bit of a reminder for all of our old teams and hopefully some new information for the new teams. All of this is in Game Manual Part 2 where we step through the stages of gameplay, right? So we have our pre-match setup, we have our autonomous, our transition, and our driver control and in-game period. Quick things on our placement. We're not using our hands to measure things. We're not using things that are not part of the robot to measure things. If we have something that is being used to measure our placement, it needs to be attached to the robot and fold into our 18 inches. Okay? We're touching the wall, and we're completely within 1 of 2 tiles per alliance, 2 or 4. So F2 is here, and F4 is there. On the other side, it's A2 and A4 for the blue lines. Okay. You are doing the autonomous activity based on what is in front of you. You cannot go and score both autonomouses, if that makes sense. Also on the back end, you're only scoring your own drone. You cannot score your partner's drone. I think that's about as much as I am going to give off the cuff here. I know there's a ton of information that's being dumped right now. I believe the game manual should be live shortly, if not already. But I think we will start taking questions. And if you want me to explain something else, please feel free to do so. Rachel?
For explaining some good tips and info just right off the cuff. To begin our question and answer period, there's 2 ways you can ask questions for people who are online. There may be a link that we can show, but for those of you who are here in person, we actually have 2 microphones on the side of the room. So I saw some hands raised. I know you're excited to ask questions. If you've got a question, please make your way over to one of the 2 microphones. We'll have lines going up the stairs, and we will have Kat answer your question with our helpers at each microphone. So as you're thinking about those questions, I know Kat gave a very good disclaimer earlier that she is not the end-all be-all. Definitely read the game manual. Definitely check out first Q&As. But as a world championship caliber referee, Kat is an extremely good resource for you to take advantage of. After we're done with Q&A, which will end around 12:05, people and teams will have a chance to be hands-on with the field. But until then, I think we're going to go ahead and start. Ryan, can we get a first question over from the left side of the room?
Hello, I'm Gabriel from Vertigo 18523. I'm wondering, when you're hanging from the center structure, at the end of the game, you said we need to turn the robot off. The op mode needs to be stopped. Does the robot need to hold itself on once the op mode is stopped running?
So once the op mode has stopped running, if there's 10 seconds left and you hit stop, then what happens in those 10 seconds matters. I care about when the timer hits 0, 0, 0, okay? So if, and I don't build a hanging robot this year, but if your robot is hanging and the timer is going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and then you hit the ground, you will still get the points. If the timer is going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, or whatever, I didn't do that well, but 3, 2, 1, 0, I do care, and you'll lose the points, okay? So it's at that instant that we hear the timer, and it hits 0.
So to clarify, the robot does not need to be able to hold itself up when the op mode is stopped?
Yes, depending on your timing, okay? So even if it was hanging and it loses it before 0, there's no points.
Thank you so much.
Okay?
Awesome. Great question. Thank you. Over on this side of the room, let's get another question for Kat.
Santiago, team 10091. Is there a possession limit on the number of pixels we can have during both autonomous and teleop?
There is. So as you noticed, you can start with 2 pixels, correct? That is your limit throughout the entire match. So at any given point, you should only have a maximum of 2 pixels and up to 1 drone, okay? So you can have 0 drones and 2 pixels. No drone doesn't mean more pixels. So maximum 1 drone, 2 pixels, okay? Any color, any configuration.
Thank you. Great question. Over back on Ryan's side of the room, let's get our third question.
Cool. Hi, Daniel, 18255. My question is, can we rescore? What? Sorry, Daniel, 18255. Can we rescore pixels from the taped off area to the backboard?
So if, for example, you placed a pixel and it landed in the backdrop or backstage area, this is worth a lower number of points. 3 points in autonomous, 1 point in driver control. If you would like to then correct that, as long as you are allowed to enter this area and allowed, and you're not going to get D-score penalties. So if you're on the blue alliance, you can come mess with the blue scored pixels. You can score them differently for more points later on. Red cannot remove from the blue backstage and vice versa because there would be D-scoring involved. Okay? But if your own alliance wants to move them, it should be fine. Okay?
Thank you. Back over to the right side of the room. Our next question.
I'm Preston from Team 14204. My question is, will the surface underneath the landing zone be a set surface, so a tarp all time, or will it vary from venue?
The surface in front of the field is going to depend on the venue. So you might have a gym floor, you might have kind of low carpeting like we do here, you might have a tarp. It's just going to depend on what's acceptable at that venue because sometimes they don't like us putting tape on the floors, so there might be something else. Okay?
Yep, thank you.
Great question. Thank you, Preston. Back over to the left side of the room for our next question.
James, team 18255. And can we use the yellow pole while we're in suspension to help us?
So, around suspending, your robot should be primarily supported by the rigging, which is the blue or the red pole at the top. This is a height limiter bar. That's what the job of the yellow bar is, which means my slightly too tall robot is going to struggle to get under it, right? If I had a shorter robot, it could transit. The robot is not allowed to grasp anything on the truss structure except for the rigging. So the blue bar or the red bar is what should be grasped. There should be no grasping of the yellow bar. There should be no grasping of the metal structure. There should be no grasping of the stage door either. So, does that make sense?
Just touching it, just like to help you stay steady.
Contact, and I believe the word they used was, I don't want to use the wrong word there, hold on. Sorry, they like their special words, right? Contact with other parts of the truss is allowed for stabilization, okay?
Great, thank you, James. Next question on the right side of the room.
Andrew, team 19508. I'd like to ask, are the coach for our drivers, are they allowed to keep during the match, are they allowed to keep like a paper with just the design they want to use for the mosaic if they have a specific design in mind?
Yeah, I would say they can have paper. They should not have a tablet. A tablet, a phone are what we consider communication devices because that's frequently what they do. So something like a whiteboard, electronic communication device, which would not be allowed. If it is a whiteboard or a piece of paper on a clipboard, that should be fine. Okay.
Thanks, Andrew. Over on the left side of the room.
Sebastian, team 19168, I also have a question about the mosaics. If you have like a mosaic of like 3 colors, can the same tile for one of those mosaics count for another like separate mosaic, like the solid color one?
Okay, let's make mosaics. And I'm cheating, so plenty of pixels at once. So, for example, what are we going to do? So something like that. Okay. This is actually going to be 0 mosaics. So part of a legal mosaic is that it's not touching any other colored pixels. So this is a legal mosaic. And this is a legal mosaic. But any other colored pixel touching it is going to discount it. Okay? Your mosaics need to be isolated.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yep. Good question.
Thank you. And just as a heads up, we have hit about our halfway mark for the question and answer section. We'll be transitioning to structured hands-on time in 15 minutes at 12:05. So I would recommend if you're in the room and if you have questions or if you're online, please add them to the form that's linked in the Twitch chat. Or if you're here in the room, go ahead and get in line. We've got 15 minutes left. Over on the right-hand side of the room, let's get our next question.
I'm Aiden from Team 5037, and is there any weight limit for our robots?
I am not aware of one. It would be found in Game Manual Part 1, if there is one. I am not aware of one.
Okay. Thank you, Aiden. On the left-hand side of the room, can we get another question, please?
Hi, I'm Jack from 19168. I was wondering if the autonomous tiebreaker 1 is still average score in autonomous.
I do not know.
Okay.
Game Manual 1 has been out there. I believe that's been in there. I'm not aware of any changes to that rule between the July release and now.
Gotcha, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Back over on the right-hand side of the room, let's get another question.
Hi, I'm Chris from Team 11392. I understand that the gate can only be pushed or pulled towards the backdrop. What constitutes grasping the gate whenever you're trying to cross it?
Okay, so if you're reading the game manual, there's certain words that are capitalized and italicized. I'm not expecting you to have read this yet, but please make sure that you guys, when you read the game manual, because you're going to read the game manual, you're not just going to listen to me. If you see those words, they have very specific definitions that are in the front of Game Manual Part 2 or Game Manual Part 1. Grasp is one of those words this year. So I believe it's like 3 words. Securely holding. Okay? So make sure that you are paying attention to the defined words that do exist. So I would consider this securely holding, okay? I don't know if this is going to be sticky like this. I don't know, okay? I think there are ways that you could open it from back to front as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And great reminder, please do read the game manual. It is going to be available online, as will a recording of this Q&A also be available for you online to revisit as you do your studying after you leave today. Over on the left-hand side of the room, can we get another question, please?
Yeah, I'm James from team 19168. I was wondering, are we allowed to have some part of our robot that detaches and holds up the stage door as long as it's not grasping it?
You should look at Game Manual Part 1 rules about tethered mini-bots. Generally no. Let me, again, we fall into the play the game, not the rules, as a heads up.
Also, while Kat is looking up that answer, just a quick announcement. We did have a bag that was turned into us as part of Lost and Found. It's a small black backpack. So if anyone on your team is missing a bag, please have them come on up and talk to us, and we can see if we found the one that you're missing. And Kat, do you have an answer?
Yeah, RG06, detached robot parts. Robots may not detach parts of the robot. Tethered elements are considered detached if either able to move independently of the other, if either is able to move independently of the other. So for example, if your robot is able to move without that piece moving, it's detached. Okay, so no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Back over on the right-hand side of the room, let's get another question.
I'm Steven. I'm Steven from team 11932. So I had a question about if like the drone landed on the 9, which one would it count for?
Okay. So one of the fun things with the drones this year is, where do you think you're going to get the most points? Here? Okay, here. So if it is on the line, which, as a reminder, because this is what I'm going to look at, the appendices of Game Manual Part 2 are very good at giving some particular situations and explaining how they would score. So please take a look at that. If they are on the line and not passing the line, they are considered in the landing zone 1, which is going to get you maximum points. So if this was landed in this place where you are over the line, you are over the tape of the line, but not past the line, you're going to get your zone 1 points. When you are in 2 zones, it's the second zone, the furthest out zone. Okay?
Great, thank you. Back over to the left-hand side of the room for our next question.
Hello, I'm Alex from Team 10630. Are the paper drones scored at rest or on contact?
At rest. So it's where they are at the end of the match. So if you threw your red plane and then a blue plane was thrown and that blue plane happened to bump yours,
okay, thanks, Alex. Over on the right-hand side of the room, our next question.
I'm Jackson from Team 12682, and I was wondering if you are able to pick up 2 of the objects at a time, and kind of related, can the human player place them down stacking?
Okay, when you say objects, the pixels, or little hexagons, okay. So 2 can be picked up at once. Your maximum possession limit is 2, so those could be acquired simultaneously or 1 at a time. Our human players read the rules. It's going to be very similar to last year. You're going to be putting your hands in the field. We don't want your hand in the field while there's a robot in your wing, this little triangular area, right? So please make sure you guys read the rules on the specifics. There are a fair number. To answer the question, though, the human player can put 2 of these in at a time, or 1 drone. So 2 pixels at a time, or 1 drone at a time. Blue's not going to put it this in, sorry. So they can place that in 1 at a time. they cannot place 2 pixels and 1 drone at the same time, okay? There can be up to 6 pixels in here. They can be placed stacking. If you don't like where they are, you cannot move them later to stack them, okay? You're one and done. Very similar to last year, okay? But please read those. There's a lot more to the human player and what's allowed and not allowed with the human player in the wing, okay?
Thank you, Jackson. Back over on the left-hand side of the room for our next question.
I'm Joa from team 8907. My question is, can the robot be suspended with 2 grasping things, like 2 claws?
There's no limit on what is grasping from your robot. It just says you should be hanging from one individual piece of rigging. You should not be split between the 2. And you should not have 2 robots on one rigging. So if you have 2 robots hanging, it should be one from each, okay?
Awesome, thank you. Next question on the right.
I'm Mac from Team 10630. On the topic of suspension, can a robot's motors that suspend the robot remain powered after an op mode is stopped to prevent it from falling and damaging itself?
That is beyond my knowledge. Please dig further and potentially ask a question, okay?
Thank you.
Good question. And 5-minute warning on our Q&A. I think we've got, it looks like 3 left, but if you need to ask another question, get in line before we end. Back over to Ryan's side of the room with our next question.
I'm Gabriel from 18523. If a robot is suspended, does it need to launch the drone from completely inside the field, or can it place the drone from outside the field? If a robot is fully suspended.
Okay, so one of the big things on launching your drones this year are that the drones must pass over the rigging piece or the stage door high point, okay? They must be launched from, I believe, 4, 5, or 6. So, you're gonna catch me on that. Ooh. Very exciting stuff, I know. This is what I'm gonna be doing though, because I don't know the rules perfectly. So, our drone constraints. I think the big thing is they just need to pass over a rigging or the top pull of the stage door. So if your robot is, for example, hanging here, it cannot launch a drone from the front. It must come over the rigging, okay? Your robot should not be leaving the field. So if you, for some reason, are hanging and you have an arm out, that would be outside the field, and that would be an intentional leaving, and that's a safety issue covered in S1 or S2, okay? So you should keep your robot inside the field, okay?
So when you said that the drone cannot be launched from the audience side of the rigging,
yeah,
is launching when it detaches from the robot?
I would strongly suggest that as soon as your robot no longer has contact is where the point would be, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. And that might be clarified later on, just as a heads up.
Thanks, Gabriel. Looks like our second to last question over on the right-hand side of the room.
I'm Santiago from Team 10091. Are the pixel stacks on the audience side team specific or team neutral?
None of the pixels this year are team specific. So for example, someone dropped a green pixel right here. Red could go pick that up. It's not reds and it's not blues, okay? Same thing with our stacks. They're on neutral tape, they're neutral colors. Anybody could go after any of them. On the pixel stacks at the front, there's 6 stacks of 5 each. They don't really like to stay stacked because these elements don't really like adhere. You are allowed to knock them over without possessing. That's not considering possession of all of them. You are not allowed to move them completely off the mark. So everybody from last year, it's completely off the tape this year. So we can all be happy about that. So once you start moving them completely off the tape, it is considered control. So just be careful when you're messing with those or driving in that area. Okay?
Thanks, Santiago. All right, looks like we have our last question over on the left-hand side of the room with Ryan.
This is Alex from 10630 again. When the team-made props are moved during randomization, how does their orientation change? Does it change?
So from what I saw of the pixel orientation, when it moves, so it starts with the point pointed towards the two alliances, and then when it moves, it appears to just be translated. It's not rotated, so the point continues to face this way. My general expectation is that the team prop would be translated and not rotated. Okay? Please, 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 before you start making your props, before you start making your drones, read the rules. There's some very specific rules about the color, the markings on your team prop. This is a legal team prop. The only non-red colored item is the team number less than ½ an inch high. There's limits on how high it is. There's limits on the size. There's limits on how big your team number is. You cannot put anything else. You cannot put your school logo, your team logo. You cannot put anything on this, okay? The team number is just for identification purposes. I've made some drones and some props. This is a legal prop. This is not a legal prop, okay? It has an April tag on it. We're not doing that this year. All right, there's some other things. This is a legal prop. It's a little 3D printed piece that I definitely did not steal from a team. This is a legal prop. Erin in her video talked about this not being a drone. It is not a drone, okay? Or not a legal drone. Other things. If I were to take a piece of paper and I were to create a little javelin out of it, this is also not a drone, okay? It does not have distinct wings and fuselage, okay? Our drones need to be plane-shaped drones. This is technically a paper airplane. Yeah, it throws like a football. It's not a legal plane or a legal drone for the sake of this game, okay? So I've given some examples. Also, when you're thinking about your drones, there is a weight limit to your paper. You cannot make them out of cardstock. You cannot make them out of heavy paper. So I have some heavier papers here. This paper is over the limit. Some of the brighter colors are over the weight limit. If you are trying to buy this off of Amazon or a big box store, double check your weight. It is 20 pounds. So all of my light blue paper is 20 pounds. This is 24 pounds. I can feel the difference. I don't know if everyone can. I know Corey cannot. Also pay attention to your construction materials. So markers, pens are allowed for your marking. You are not allowed to laminate your paper airplanes, okay? It's also very hard to do. It doesn't want to stay a plane, okay? You cannot use coated paper. You cannot use cardboard. You cannot use something that is not distinctly red or blue. So something like yellow. I don't know what team you're on. Something that is obnoxiously about equal red and blue. I don't know what team you're on, okay? Don't do this. You can laser or inkjet print your paper airplane blanks. You can do that. You cannot paint. You cannot use colored pencils. There's a long list. Please read it. Please do not tape your planes. Please do not add paper clips for buoyancy or weight. Please do not add stickers. There's a long list. Please, please, please read the rules before you bring them to events. Also, guess what's going to happen? They're going to get destroyed. So bring spares, all right? Come to your event with more than enough for the number of matches you expect to play. Probably enough for however long you plan to practice on the practice field as well, okay? I think that's about it. You guys are welcome to peruse my legal and illegal items here. I have tried to label everything. If you have questions, let me know. But this is available when you guys come up to the field to check out the field, okay?